Hello, I'm Jana. Welcome to Café Jana. This is where I cover everything from community building, experiential marketing, and what it takes to make the perfect cup of coffee. So I haven't made one of these in a while. I think it's just been busy. But something I've been thinking a lot about is just kind of career progression and career growth and the different paths that are available out there for you. It's been interesting. The founder of HashiCorp, Mitchell Hashimoto, a couple weeks ago announced that he was just stepping back from like leadership from the executive team to be an individual contributor. And I think, it's something that we all at HashiCorp have been talking about, and the industry has as well. And it's interesting, right? Because we start our careers, and you're like, okay, I started as an individual contributor, then I become a manager, director, senior director. Growing up, right, you were only told it was like this one path. But it's really interesting to think about where, like, do you want to be a manager, right? Are you someone that really enjoys being hands-on and doing things? I mean, I think about my career. I started in tech, I think almost 14 years ago. I was just doing customer support at a company called Javox back in the day. And it's interesting, right? Because it's like it's not a role I specifically enjoyed, right? I don't think it utilized my skill set well. And so I took a couple different turns, right? I did customer support, I did sales, eventually I found events and community building. But it's really taken me about, I started working in 2008. It's taken me, this many years to really kind of create the perfect job for me. And I'm not quite there yet either. It's really interesting when you join like an early startup, and you kind of, right, in the early days, you are, even if you come in with a director or some type of kind of manager title, you are an individual contributor, you roll up your sleeves. But when a company grows, you kind of like get put on this path. I think about, like, I had no choice but to become a manager, which is really interesting. And I enjoy being a manager. I enjoy kind of mentoring and leading people, but but I also am no longer doing the creative stuff, right? I sometimes, like, I woke up one day and I was like, oh, I'm just having stakeholder meetings and putting together budgets and doing a lot of like people work, and you're like, oh, how did I get here? And so it's interesting to think. I'm like, well, if I ever leave HashiCorp, do I then have to now become a VP somewhere or a senior director, or could I choose different paths? And so I've been thinking about that a lot, because I think another thing that happens is you're like, well, for me to get comp increase, stock or salary, I have to become a manager. But I think if companies made it more clear, and that's not the case, right? I think I really love at HashiCorp, right? We have IC pass as well as manager pass, and even with IC pass, that comes, right, if you become a level 4 or a level 5, right, or a level 6. That does, right? You get more stock, you get salary increases. So I think if companies made that more clear, because there's just some people that really enjoy building and doing and rolling up their sleeves, and there's other folks that are really great at the budgeting and the long-term visions and the people management, things like that. So yeah, I don't know. I think Mitchell's announcement, and you could even see the joy, right? We do these all hands at our company, and the joy that he had when he shared that he was going to become an individual contributor and he was going to go back to just coding, which what he loved best. I found it really inspiring. Also, a woman named Roberta, who leads the design team, she actually had this really great tweet that I've been thinking about as well, of like, your careers are long, right? And she's like, if I can impress one thing on you, is to like not put so much pressure on yourself. And I've been thinking about that a lot, right? Because I'm like, we start our careers in our early 20s, and it is long, right? I'm 35 now. I'm hoping I'm going to work, for another 20 or 30 years. And so it's interesting to think of like, oh, there is time in some way, right? But I think, what is the skill set? Yeah, so it's like there's time, but it's like, what is the skill set that you need to develop, right, to help you kind of progress through your career? Are there other paths? But yeah, so I've been thinking a lot about what is my skill set? What are things I'm good at? How do I find, how do I create a job that really kind of suits me and that gets me excited to wake up every day? Yeah, and what is that? Is that on the manager or the IC path? So this is just kind of more of a ramble or something I've been thinking about of like, what are the different career paths? And I'd love to hear from, I don't have quite the answer. I think for me, I actually enjoy being an individual contributor. But yeah, but that also worries me of like, oh, if someone sees on my CV that I'm just always an individual contributor, does that mean I haven't been promoted or I don't do great work? So it's interesting to like think about those and how hiring managers think about people's like careers as well. So I don't know the answers. I'll post this on like LinkedIn and YouTube. So I'd love to hear how other people have thought about like their careers. Yeah, and of course this is Café Jana. So someone sent me a roast. So it's actually a roaster out of Amsterdam. They're called Bitter and Real. They served coffee at the Hashi Café at HashiConf Europe for a couple years. So I really love their coffee, just like delicious roast. So they sent me a couple different ones. The one I'm drinking is beans from Ethiopia, which is they're more sweeter and fruitier and delicious, and it's really great coffee. So thank you so much for sending me some beans. Delicious. Nice to see you all.